Hello and welcome to FoodWise, the show dedicated to giving you an in-depth look from food all around the world, starting with your favorites. I'm your host, Lauren Keene. Our food of the week is pizza, and today we're going to take a look at the first pizza place in Milwaukee, which still exists today. Plus, we'll learn how to make this fan favorite healthier and see how to make a pizza in your very own kitchen. All that and more coming up on FoodWise. FoodWise, we're coming to you from the Milwaukee PBS studios inside MATC's downtown campus. With us today are nutrition professionals Michelle Reimer and Lauren Christie. They're here to discuss the nutritional aspects of pizza. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
So we just have a few questions for you guys. We're going to talk about the nutritional sides of pizza and how we can make pizza healthier every day.
Okay.
So my first question is, why do you think pizza is so popular?
Well, I think that really goes back to the origin of pizza. So in the late 1700s, early 1800s, Naples, Italy was thriving. There were lots of working poor though, and so they needed something that was inexpensive and quick and easy. And the flatbreads with all the different toppings that were served on it from the cart vendors, the food vendors, met that need. So then you fast forward to as those individuals immigrated to New York, to Chicago, they brought that food with them. And then actually after World War II is when we really see a boost in the popularity of pizza. It was really seen as like a food and, a fast food, and that it was a fun food as well. And I think that that really fits well with our current lifestyle, how we're so busy, we want something that tastes good, and so it's fast and it's fun.
It's hard to imagine life without pizza.
Yes.
So
true.
Obviously pizza is really popular in America. We love pizza, but it's not really the healthiest choice that there is. Can you explain why pizza might not be the healthiest option?
Yeah, and I think that this really is a great question after this, you know, how Michelle was talking about the history of it. It originated in these working poor communities where they worked hard all day. It was most likely very physical labor, and then they came home and ate this pretty calorie-rich meal, which worked out great under those circumstances. And now you plug it into our modern-day lifestyle, which is more sedentary. We are most likely eating more times throughout the day as well than those people back in Naples in the 1700s. So I think if you don't adjust a little bit, that's where pizza can get us into trouble sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. How often should an American be eating pizza?
Well, that depends. I mean, I would say all foods fit. But it also depends when you start to consider your lifestyle as well. I think if you look at the dietary guidelines for Americans, there's several tenets of that say things like eat a variety of vegetables, which you can put on pizza. Eat fruit. You could put pineapple on pizza. Eat low-fat dairy using a skim, part skim mozzarella. Eat whole grains, having whole grain crust, and then eating different proteins. So looking for some of those lower-fat protein meat options. So really, I think if you can stay within those parameters, and then also consider, limiting about 10% of your calories to saturated fat, which can be high in pizza. And then also looking at trying to keep our sodium under 2,400 milligrams per day, which is really only 1 teaspoon of salt, but one slice of pizza could have about 700 milligrams in it.
Well, it's good to know that there are at least some ways to make pizza a little bit healthier so people can maybe sneak it in more than once. Mm-hmm. So when people are ordering out, are there any tips that you have for people that are trying to make healthier choices when they're eating pizza?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at every step along the process, the pizza process, you can make adjustments. And to everybody, every different person is going to want to make different adjustments. Some people are crust people, and they just can't forego the hand tossed for the thin crust. You know, some people can. So anyways, doing a thinner crust is going to be a better choice. You're getting less processed grains in that way. The next layer is the sauce. I do think that marinara is going to be the healthiest choice, healthier than an Alfredo, which tends to be like higher in fat, saturated fat especially, and really the marinara sauce does have good nutrients like lycopene. It's made from tomatoes.
Right.
The next layer is the cheese. Why not just go lighter on the cheese? Honestly, some of the pizzas that we order are just, the cheese is so thick and you're getting so much saturated fat and sodium right there. So going lighter on that. Meats, you can go lighter. You can do, choose the turkey or the chicken versions of sausages or pepperonis, or you can leave it off. And don't forget about the vegetables, obviously. It almost goes without saying, but I have to say it. Put the vegetables on the pizza. Yeah. I would say that those are ways to do it. At the same time, sometimes you just want the pizza as is from your favorite pizza place. And so if you're gonna go that route, why don't you look at changing around your portion? Okay, so have maybe less of it and add a vegetable, a salad, something on the side to balance it out that way.
Yeah, those are really good tips. So I think we've all done this before. We've gotten a really greasy pizza. We've taken a napkin and just kind of dabbed it a little bit. Is blotting your pizza with a napkin, does that make it healthier? Is that a myth or is that a fact?
No, it actually can. So that what you're blotting off is extra grease, which is fat, which is calorically dense. So if you're removing some of that, then you're going to obviously reduce maybe the saturated fat and then overall the calories in it. And you were mentioning before about...
Yeah, but if you do have a pizza in front of you that has pools of grease on it, you probably have some ingredient issues. So yes, it can improve it slightly, but you probably are looking at a pizza that has a lot of processed meats and a lot of cheese on it. So maybe making some changes a little before that would be better, but sure, why not blot it off?
Maybe those extra vegetables can absorb the grease. So for many people, the crust can really make or break a pizza. Can you tell me, is there a way for people to keep the crust but still have the pizza be healthy? And this will have to be our last question, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, first of all, don't forget that there are things like cauliflower crust out there, sprouted grain crusts. Those are really healthy options. But right, if you want to go with your original crust, I would say, you know, like I said, you can make healthy changes all throughout the pizza process. So work on your toppings, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Also, don't forget about adding spices. That can really help improve the flavor if you're reducing the meats or things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Michelle and Lauren, so much for joining us here on FoodWise. We really appreciate your insight, and we love to hear all these pizza tips. And I'm really, really happy to know that I might be able to eat pizza and not feel too guilty about it later today.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
Thank you. So now we're going to take a look into Milwaukee's first pizza place and how they make their pizza.
Did not reach Milwaukee until 1945 with the Caradero Club. Started by Joe Tadero and John Caravella, this place has had a rich, full history, which includes being destroyed by fire and rebuilt again twice, changing locations and owners until reaching its current owner, manager, Wally.
All right, so here's the story. So sometime in 2002 then, at the time I was a engineer building complicated tools and machinery for companies on southeast Wisconsin. And I had the opportunity to build popcorn wagons for Kepsel's Popcorn Company. You'll see those red popcorn wagons down at Summerfest and State Fair Park. Well, at that time, it was kind of a neat project, and I was pretty proud. And in 2002, I suggested to my girlfriend, hey, let's go down to Festa Italiana and check out those popcorn wagons that I built. And we went. Well, anyway, it turns out then we saw the popcorn wagons and they were doing well, and I was scratching my head, wow, life could be a lot easier if I were in the food service business. But I wasn't thinking about food service at all. I was an engineer. But I did suggest to her, well, let's not go to have Italian food at Festa Italiana. I'm going to take you for some real Italian pizza. We're going to go to Caradero Club in West Dallas. Well, okay, then we jumped in the car and we traveled to West Dallas to pick up our pizza, speaking with Consiglio. Well, we called him Connie. Hey Connie, this is Wally. Hey, I came to pick up my pizza. Didn't see you down there at Festa Italiana. We were just down there. Man, you'd sell a lot of pizzas down there. And he said, no, Wally, just too much hard work. And then I said, well, you know, I build those popcorn wagons for Kepsel's Popcorn. You'll see them down there at Summerfest in State Fair Park. What do you say I build you an Italian concession stand, painted Italian colors, and you take that down to Festa Italiana and you'll sell a lot of pizza. He said, no, Wally, I'm going to retire. I'm going to sell the place. Well, right then and there, I made the decision to buy the pizzeria, and now I'm the lucky owner of the Caradero Club Restaurant Group. Milwaukee's a hotbed for pizza in this area. But if you're an old pizza guy like me, there's only 7 toppings. And if you're an old pizza guy, you got to say your toppings in the correct order. You ready? Cheese, sausage, mushroom, onion, black olive, green pepper, and pepperoni. That's all you need to have to get a Works pizza. Well, you just call up Caradero Club and say, Wally, give me a Works, and I'll know what you want. We'll use a commercial dough sheeter, which is used commonly in these applications. And we're going to use this machine to roll the dough out. And if you're an old pizza guy, then the idea is thin to win. So we'll just get this process started and we'll whip you out a crust, lickety-split. Remove the moisture. Remember, I said thin to win. How's that look? I'm saying that that's 1 millimeter thick. What do you think? So, in keeping with the old tradition, thin crust, mild Italian sausage, and all the other fresh toppings, I didn't change a thing. Perfect size for a Works pizza. I say we'll make a Works pizza. Cheese, sausage, mushroom, onion, black olive, green pepper, and pepperoni. Okay with you guys? So here we go. And there we go. Perfect. So, cheese, sausage, mushroom, onion, black olive, green pepper, and pepperoni. Here we go. And now for the application of the fresh, mild Italian sausage. All right, 45 pieces of mild Italian sausage. Go, guys. Fresh mushrooms is the only way to go, right? This pizza is really taking shape. Did you ever get a pizza when you didn't have the toppings all the way out to edge? Don't you hate that? So we make sure that you get your toppings all the way to the edge. Wow, is this a beauty? What do you guys think? All right, so we're going to be putting it into the Blodgett oven at 500 degrees for 8 minutes. These ovens have been produced for many years and they're commonly called deck ovens. Oh yeah, baby. Tavern cut pizza is pizza that, well, in Milwaukee when pizza was first developed, taverns were all over the place. And all the taverns had pizza ovens. And a tavern style pizza is one that's cut in rectangles, not in triangles. Now this is the cracker crust that you've been waiting for. Just listen to that. Our famous The Works. It's just a great combination of crust and sauce and toppings that everybody can enjoy.
Wow, that seems like such an amazing place with a really full and rich history. I think I'm gonna have to check it out. Now joining us is Chef Becca from Cooking of the Heart, She's here to demonstrate how to make one of your favorite pizza pies from the comfort of your very own kitchen. Thank you, Becca, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what are you going to be making for us today?
Well, today I'm making my favorite pizza. It's a margarita.
All right, show me how to make your magic.
Excellent. So it requires a very few ingredients, which was what I love about it. It's really something anybody can do at home. The only thing that requires a little bit of forethought is making the dough, because your pizza dough is going to taste a whole lot better and get a whole lot chewier with just the right texture if you let it ferment in your fridge for a few days before you bake with it. So if you can make your pizza dough at least 3 days ahead, you're golden. Otherwise, you can always buy a grocery store ball of dough and start with that, because usually they're made ahead of the grocery store. So we're going to start with just a little bit of flour in our processor. Processor is going to make this a really, really easy job. I'm going to add to it a little bit of sugar, some salt. We're going to throw the yeast right in there, again, because we're leaving it in the fridge for a few days. That yeast is going to ferment the dough. We don't need to proof it first, as long as it's fresh. And we're going to add a little water and olive oil in a second here. First, I'm just going to pulse these ingredients together to make sure that they're combined. And I have a dough blade on my processor, but you can use a regular metal blade. So, got that going. I'm going to run it again, and I'm just going to add the oil and the water. And it's going to take about 30 seconds to come together.
So can you tell me, do you use a special kind of flour here to make this dough?
Yeah, so I'll answer that and then I'll finish the processing here. I'm using a high protein flour. So your high protein flour is going to be usually called a bread flour. You can also use an Italian specialty flour called 00. And what that refers to is it's a very finely milled flour, but it also has a high protein content. And the protein, or the gluten, as a lot of people know, is what makes your pizza really chewy, and that's what makes it really desirable. So we're going to give this about 15 more seconds to whirl, just until the ball comes together all in one ball, just like you see happening right now. Pretty quick and easy. And you really want the ball to go around all together like that, and that's pretty much it. So there's your dough. Dough is done. You would plunk this out, throw it, divide it up into 3 different balls, Ziploc bags, throw it in your fridge for 3 days, and forget about it. So that's the first step. We've got our dough here. Now, since this hasn't fermented for 3 days, we're going to go ahead and demonstrate with some dough that I made a little bit earlier. But first, I'm going to make the sauce, and then we'll move on to forming the pizza. Sauce really is just as simple as the dough. So the sauce is literally 4 ingredients. Well, 5, I guess, if you're counting the pepper. We've got some fresh, well, they're canned San Marzano tomatoes. You can use any tomato that's called Italian style. Typically, they're going to be a little bit sweeter, a little less acidic, so it's going to be the great basis for your sauce. And the beauty of this, you might have noticed, is it's a raw sauce. You do not have to cook it. So again, just a super, super simple sauce to make at home. So we've got our tomatoes. You notice I had them in a strainer. I was trying to get rid of all the excess liquid, and right before the show, this is actually how much liquid came out of that can of tomatoes, believe it or not. Save this for your bloodies, use it for something else, but don't use it in your sauce. One of the keys to making a really successful pizza at home is dry ingredients. So the drier, the better. So we've got our sauce. We're going to add a generous amount of extra virgin olive oil, because Italians love extra virgin olive oil. It's good for your heart, and it just tastes really, really good. We're going to add a little bit of oregano, just fresh or dry, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to grab my whisk real quick, just bring it all together. And the ladle is what we're going to use to smear it onto our pizza dough. So I'll just keep that handy. So this is it. Our sauce is done. We are ultimately going to be baking the pizza at such a high temperature that the sauce is going to cook just enough right on the pizza itself.
So can you tell me, you were saying you use Italian tomatoes. Can you get these tomatoes at any store, or do you need to go to a farmer's market, go to a specialty market?
The San Marzano style or Italian style tomatoes have become really popular, so you can pretty much find them anywhere now.
That's great.
Yeah. So sauce is done. What we're going to do now, just before I show you how to form the pizza, is I'm going to throw a pre-made pizza in the oven so that it can come out nice and hot for us when we're ready. So this is one I formed earlier, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a minute. What you want to make sure of is that the pizza, this is critical, you want the pizza to be able to move around on your peel, because otherwise there's no way you're going to be able to slide it into the oven, and I think that's what people struggle with the most. So I have a really generous layer of semolina flour on my peel. You could use regular flour for that too, or even cornmeal. So we're going to open our preheated oven here. Just slide it in very, very quickly. Don't mess around. Don't get excited. Just get it right off that peel as quickly as possible. That's going to take about 6 or 7 minutes to bake. We have the oven maxed out at 550 right now, and I lined it with pizza stones, so it's been really preheating for about 2 hours already. But 45 minutes minimum will do the trick.
Is there a preferred oven that you have to use to make pizza?
You can use really any oven, but the key is you want an oven that gets really hot.
Okay.
So regular oven, you can even put the convection fan if you want. That's
Okay.
really going to help circulate the hot air in the oven to get an even better rise. And we're going to start smelling that right away. You probably already can.
It smells really good. I know you guys can only see the pizza, but I promise it smells great back here.
Yeah. So this is our dough, and this dough, like I said, I made it a few days ago, so it's been fermenting in my fridge, which just means that the yeast has been doing its work of creating carbon dioxide in the dough, and that's why we make a nice tight ball. You'll always see dough in a ball. It's to create that structure for the dough so that the carbon dioxide has room to expand the gas inside without the dough tearing.
Right.
So we've got this nice, beautiful ball of dough. We're going to keep this part really, really simple. We're just going to knuckle it down. You can see how much gas is already formed in there. We're just going to knuckle it down a little bit, and I like to take a few fingers all the way around the outer edge just to create that outer lip that you traditionally get on a pizza called the cornicione. And you don't necessarily need it, but it'll hold the toppings in the middle, and so I like to keep it like that. And then from there, I'm just going to always using my knuckles. You never want to use a finger, and you certainly don't want to have claws when you're doing this. You're just going to rotate it around. You don't have to get fancy. You don't have to toss it in the air, but you're just going to rotate it around like that. Done. Super simple. If you want to stretch it a little bit more, you can put a flat hand down and just rotate your pizza down and just pull it alongside just a few more times. You do want to get it about as thin as you possibly can.
You make it look so easy. It just looks so
there we go.
seamless.
We got a little bit of crusty dough on top just because our dough was sitting out, but normally you wouldn't have a little bit of crusty dough on top, just so you know when you're making it at home. So this is ready to go. Again, I just had flour on the cutting board. That's why it was easy. If I didn't have flour on the cutting board, it would be really, really hard to move. Right. So at this point, once you've got it like that, what you want to do is get it back on your peel before you top it. That's also critical. If you don't put it on the peel before you top it, you're going to have a heck of a time moving the pizza to your peel once it's covered in tomato sauce and heavy toppings. So I'm just going to move that out of the way, and we'll just pull this dough right over. And then you can test it. Oops. You can just test it by moving it around. See how nicely that slides? You got to do that test. Otherwise, you're going to run into trouble after you get your toppings on. So now we're going to go back to our beautiful topping here, and I trained in Italian restaurants. I moved here from Canada about 20 years ago, but before I moved here I trained in actually French and Italian restaurants, but I learned how to make pizza back in the day, and this is how we did it back then. You can also make dough ahead and freeze it, which is really nice because you can just keep it on hand for whenever you want it, and it will actually ferment in the freezer. The key is to bring it to room temperature and bring it to fridge temperature overnight, and then leave it on your counter for about 2 hours before you start trying to roll it out.
Now, can you tell me about this cheese that you're going to be putting on top?
Absolutely. This is a fresh mozzarella cheese. In Italy, they would use something called buffalo mozzarella, which would look exactly the same. We don't tend to have a lot of buffalo roaming in the middle of winter in Wisconsin, so we use what we can. But this is a fresh mozzarella. It's got a slightly higher fat content. You definitely don't want to scrimp on the fat content, despite what we were talking about earlier with the nutritionists. A few really good quality ingredients are going to be so satisfying that you'll be okay with having a little bit of fat on your pizza. And as you'll see, I'm pretty conservative about how much I put on. There's not going to be a ton of oozing pizza. That's where people run into the problem with their hearts, is if they're eating tons of oozing toppings and lots of heavy meat and such. You can put other toppings on your pizza. Traditionally, this is it for the margherita. We'll just make sure it's still sliding so that we can get it in the oven. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it there because we're going to be taking that one out of the oven in a moment. And we'll just let that sit for a few minutes. If you want to put extra toppings on your pizza, couple things you want to know. If you want to do vegetables, a really nice topping that I love to do on this is a little bit of sauteed eggplant.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It just goes really, really nicely with this combination of flavors, and it's also super healthy as well. We're going to add a little bit of fresh basil when that one comes out of the oven. So I'm just going to get those leaves ready now. The reason I'm doing this à la minute or at the last minute is if I were to have this all chopped up or shredded ahead of time, it would be totally brown.
Yeah.
So we don't want that to happen. So we've got some leaves ready to go to put on our pizza, and they're going to look just gorgeous when we bring it out. I was going to say, in addition to vegetables, if you must do some meat on it, no problem. Make sure you saute the meat first if it's a raw ground meat so that the fat renders out, and then drain it. And if you want to use a cured meat, just put it on top so some of that fat can get out of it while it's cooking. So we're going to go head right back to the oven here. Remember, we put that gorgeous pizza in the oven. So we're going to open it up, and it looks like it's just about ready.
Wow.
And it's going to look a little bit moist yet. So what we're going to want to do at this point is just let it sit and rest for a couple of minutes before we do anything else to it. I'll just set that back there. And while that's happening, you want to wait a few minutes, but then you can decorate your pizza with your basil leaves. And
wow, this pizza looks phenomenal, and
So
it smells so amazing.
you saw how quickly that
Yeah.
came out of the oven, really, really quick. And that's because of the pizza stone baking it from the bottom as well. So that's the importance of using a nice pizza stone. You could also turn a couple sheet pans over if you don't own pizza stones. But if you use the sheet pans, just make sure you preheat them in the oven before you put the pizza in, or it just simply won't bake all the way through. One very final ingredient that we're just going to put on here is a tiny bit of salt.
It looks like we are running
went
out of
missing.
time. Unfortunately, we can't find the salt either,
That's
but
okay.
thank you so much for coming in today and showing us how to make this pizza. It looks and smells amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. You can find me at chefbecca.com. Cooking from the Heart is the name of my business, and I'd love to teach you how to cook.
And thank you everyone for watching Foodwise. Hopefully you'll be joining us next time. Thank you again, Becca, for being here today.
Thank you so much.